Secretary Nichols, I believe clarity is needed on the administration's policies regarding efforts towards negotiations, the lifting and potential snapback of sanctions, and the stewardship of Venezuelan state assets in the United States. Now, the administration has lifted targeted sanctions on one of Maduro's henchmen, provided a license to Chevron, comfort letters to European oil companies Repsol and Eni. However, as far as I can discern, Maduro has not made any meaningful concessions or concrete steps to return to negotiations in Mexico City. As Congress supported for a negotiated solution in Venezuela is neither a blank check nor an open-ended invitation, I'd like to ask, does the administration intend to make any more changes to U.S. sanctions absent specific irreversible steps by Maduro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our focus is upon returning the parties to formal negotiations. We have been engaged actively to promote that. We coordinate closely with the interim government and the broad opposition, the unitary platform in Venezuela. The efforts so far have led to multiple rounds of informal negotiations, both in Oslo, in Caracas, and significant advances toward a return to a formal process in Mexico City.
How long are we going to wait for a formal process to take place? He's buying time. He's taking gold out of the country. He's letting our adversaries actively engage in the Western Hemisphere through Venezuela. How long are we going to, he's got U.S. citizens held hostage. How long are we going to tolerate that? How long is this aspiration to get to some formal negotiations going to take place?
Nicolas Maduro is making a critical mistake if he thinks that our patience is infinite and that dilatory tactics will serve him well. We stand ready to snap back sanctions and ready to take comprehensive measures if this process does not move forward.
So how long will the U.S. wait before snapping back changes to sanctions?
We consult very closely with the interim government and the unitary platform, as well as our allies in Europe, the UK, and Canada, as well as in the region, on our collective approach to Venezuela. We had a meeting just yesterday. I was traveling back from Mexico, but my deputy led that conversation with key allies on this process, and we will be informed by the views of the interim government and the unitary platform, as well as our partners and allies around the region.
Okay, that doesn't give me any sense of is our patience infinite, or is it finite? You don't give me any sense of it. It's already taken quite a long time. In the interim, he has turned the nation into a narco state, bilking it of its national patrimony, and nothing is happening. And nothing is happening. So, if Maduro refuses to negotiate in good faith or even negotiate at all, what's your plan B to degrade the regime?
We will use the various tools that you have given us, sanctions, law enforcement action. We will work with our partners and allies around the world to ensure that the regime does not secure access to assets that are currently frozen or held by the interim government. We will work assiduously to promote investigations by the International Fact-Finding Mission and other international bodies like the ICC into the events to shed light on what's going on in Venezuela.
And we will Secretary, our sanctions are like a sieve. We are allowing a whole host of countries to get around our sanctions. And Maduro knows it. Turkey, Russia, China. They're doing it with impunity. Of course, Cuba, which provides a security apparatus for the whole Maduro regime to exist in the first place. You know, you talk about independent investigations. Well, the UN Human Rights Council established an independent fact-finding mission on Venezuela 2019, That mission played a central role in investigating and documenting the Maduro regime's systematic violations of international law, including extrajudicial executions, forced disappearances, torture, arbitrary detention. But there's much more to be done. Mr. Secretary, the fact-finding mission and others have mounted damning evidence that the Maduro regime has committed grave human rights abuses that constitute crimes against humanity. Is it your assessment the regime has committed crimes against humanity?
The United Nations, the OAS, a large number of non-governmental organizations focused on human rights have all said that the regime has committed crimes against humanity. I think that is the international consensus.
Yes, is that our consensus as well?
That's what
others said. I agree with them.
Yeah.
What do we say?
I think the facts of the offenses of this regime are undeniable, and I point to those others. The definition of crimes against humanity, as far as I know, is not codified in U.S. statute. But it's clear that they have committed all of these actions and that the key international bodies, the United Nations and the OAS, consider them responsible for crimes against humanity. If you ask me my personal opinion is they've committed crimes against humanity.
Senator Risch.
Well, thank you.